Hi there. Today I'm going to show you how it is to take the Almaty to Bishkek bus with a special hack halfway through the video to make this journey quicker and smoother. So stay tuned. So we begin our journey at Almaty Sairan Bus Station or Sairan Avtovaksal. This place can only be described as hell on earth with taxi scammers everywhere in the car park. This is one of the craziest parts of Almaty, is the bus station. It's actually much calmer than it used to be. They've now made entry paid, so you have to get into the car park by paying. So that stops a lot of, sort of taxi scammers from coming in. Still, you can never truly stop them, can't you? Thankfully, I'd already bought a bus ticket online, but for this you need a Kazakh phone number. Thankfully, I was also able to pay with my Revolut card, but I had to try it twice for some reason. Whether you buy your ticket online or in person, you need your passport at hand, as it is an international journey. Buying the ticket online is also good because you get to choose your seat, but this isn't possible if you buy your ticket at the station. The bus from Almaty to Bishkek leaves every 2 hours, starting at 8 am, and the last bus leaves at 6 pm. You take it from the stand at the back of the station that says Bishkek on it, and you are allowed to walk through the building with your ticket if you have it already. Otherwise, you need to buy your ticket inside the building and then go to the bus stand. You are allowed to get on the bus as soon as the doors are open. A conductor will come on to check your ticket as well as your passport before you leave, so just make sure that you've got both your ticket or your e-ticket and passport at hand. And also make sure that you're sitting in the correct seat number that's written on your ticket. Once the bus has left, you can always move seats. I took the 10 am bus this time round, and exactly at 10 am on the dot, the bus started moving. And yes, the windows really were this grim, so bring wipes with you to keep your hygiene as best as you can. So I'm on the bus from Almaty to Bishkek. This brings back so many memories for me. I did this a few times on my year abroad. And it is simultaneously really fun and really annoying of a process. Um, it's fun because it's super cheap and it is like you get to meet some awesome people. This time around the bus is quite quiet and I don't have a person sitting next to me, so I probably won't end up meeting many people today. But yeah, it's definitely a fun process in that regard. But it's also a very unexpected process. You never know how long it's going to take at the border. You never know when you're going to get to the. You never know if you're going to break down and have to wait for 2 hours. So, like, even though it's a 4-ish hour bus journey, you do very much need to, let's say, just, reserve your whole day for it. But yeah, so this will be very fun. I managed to get my ticket online this time. I always used to get a paper ticket, but I thought, let's just get an online ticket in case I don't make it to the bus station on time. Thank goodness I bought it online, because I only managed to get to the bus station like 10 minutes before the bus left, and I don't think it would have left me enough time to get the ticket and get on the bus after. The traffic was just ridiculous. So, yeah. Anyway. The total bus journey time ultimately depends on how quickly the bus is able to leave Almaty city centre. No matter which bus you choose, there will always be traffic leaving the city, but for some reason, leaving at 10 am on a Wednesday wasn't actually that bad an idea. We were out of the city within around an hour, which is pretty good going. Here, we are passing the Almatinskaya Barakholka. It's around 2 square kilometers big and is often considered a city within a city. The prices here are much lower than in the Green Bazaar in Almaty city centre, so it's definitely worth checking out if you're in Almaty. Usually, somewhere between Almaty and Kordai, which is the town on the Kazakh-Kyrgyz border, the driver will stop at some sort of service station to refuel. There are about 3 or 4 on the way, but he'll only stop at one. Do not expect any luxuries at these service stations. This one was the best one that I've been to so far. It had a shop with basic essentials and drinks, and I mean a lot of drinks, as you can see. There was also a toilet. Of course, you had to pay to use this toilet, and I heard an American tourist couple mention how it was the worst toilet they'd ever used because it was a squat toilet. This specific service station actually had a burger place with sitting in tables and chairs. But since the bus only stops here for about 10 to 15 minutes, you don't really have enough time to get off the bus, order your burger, wait for the burger, then eat it because you're not allowed to eat it on the bus. And to be honest, you wouldn't want to either. So don't suggest you buy food here unless it's just a quick snack from the shop. Just a fun moment here when the bus started leaving and completely forgot to close the middle door. As the bus gets closer to Kordai, the bus starts to move slower. Kordai itself has improved quite a bit since I last saw it 3 years ago. Perhaps it's because it's like a border display town, but I don't know. Maybe it is genuinely improving. Once you're at the border, you go through two different zones. The first zone is the section where you leave the Kazakh side. This took forever this time round. We were waiting for at least 30 minutes, and there were no well-defined queues at the border, and the border police were constantly asking us to allow handicapped travellers through. Nobody would have been against this if there were one or two instances, but it started to become that almost every other person approaching the border was somehow skipping the queue because of some sort of handicap. There also weren't any segregated queues for citizens of certain countries, but they did sometimes ask Kazakh families to come through at a different queue. Very much an ad hoc system that might change day by day, but yeah, definitely not the smoothest experience I had. Thankfully, though, for me, they dealt with my exit within less than a minute. No questions asked. They just looked at me, asked me to look into the camera. Within 30 seconds, they stamped me out, and I was leaving Kazakhstan. Then there is a little strip of land which is no man's land. This is a good time to change your SIM card or activate an eSIM if you need to, because it takes about a minute to walk from one side of the corridor to the other. You end up walking through this corridor, which goes over the Chuy River. A few years back, I actually saw some military drills happening here, just by the side of the river. So make sure to not film or take pictures of these parts of the territory. It is a serious offence to film military or military sensitive bases. And if you're in no man's land, basically, whichever side you're closer to could arrest you. So just be very careful with taking pictures here. After about a minute of walking, you enter the Kyrgyz border, which is where you get stamped in. Sometimes this can be just as chaotic as the Kazakh exit side. However, this time they were very efficient, and I waited no more than 2 minutes to be seen. The man at the border just asked where I was headed. I said Bishkek. He asked whether it was for the airport, and I said no, just to the city centre. He smiled, which is actually very rare, and stamped me in. Then, after another minute or so of walking through an outdoor corridor, you have safely made it through the border and you're officially in Kyrgyzstan. Remember, now you are an hour ahead of Kazakhstan, so change your watches if they're not automatic. Here, you'll be met with various people selling various things, or maybe even trying to scam you with a few things. You've got people selling SIM cards, or people offering taxi rides to, the nearby lake, to the airport, to the city. I wouldn't risk getting in these taxis, especially because if you don't have cash on you, or if you don't have any internet, it might get a bit awkward when it comes to paying. So I would either wait for the bus or I would do the next thing that I'm going to talk about. Of course, you do have a paid bus ticket that takes you all the way to Bishkek, to the Western Bus Station. You are entitled to wait for that bus to return from the border, so you can indeed go to Bishkek that way. However, this is where my hack comes in handy, and it is very rarely done by foreigners and tourists. If you either have a Kyrgyz bank account or some Kyrgyz cash to hand, for the price of 30 Kyrgyz som, which is like less than 50 cents or around 30 pence, you can take a public transport bus that leaves every 15 minutes and it will take you anywhere in the central part of Bishkek along Chuy Prospect. If you're curious, it's bus number 34 and it takes around an hour, but it's absolutely worth doing for three reasons. The first reason, it is really cheap. I mean, we're talking 20 British pence, 30 euro cents, and like 40 or $35 cents. You might as well do it. It is incredibly cheap, and yeah. So the second reason is that the bus station in Bishkek is located quite far away from the city centre. And even though they have opened up this newer bus station, which is slightly closer to the center than the previous one, it is still a 40-plus-minute walk from there to the sort of main parts of the city where most of the hotels and hostels are. If you have heavy bags with you, the last thing you want to do is walk for 45 minutes plus after having just done a 5-plus-hour bus journey, especially if you might not have signal on your phone, which can help you get to your hostel or hotel quicker. So, yes, the bus will actually take you much closer to where you need to be, and you don't need to walk as much as you would do. So, the third reason is the fact that waiting for the bus at the border can take a very long time. First, they need to wait for all passengers to get through the border, and some people might get detained, and some people might get inspected for longer. So, you never know how long you might be waiting for the bus for. And even if everything goes well, the bus itself needs to be inspected for contraband items, and then the driver might decide to get a coffee or go to the toilet or do something else for however long they want to take. In the past, I have waited around 45 minutes for that bus to come through, so I do highly recommend getting the local bus because in that 45 minutes, you'll not only get yourself closer to the city centre much quicker, but you'll actually be able to get yourself closer to wherever you need to be rather than having to walk there. So, yeah, bus 34, it just saves time and energy. One note though, do not do this technique if you're doing the reverse journey. So if you're going from Bishkek to Almaty, you can only board the bus at Bishkek bus station, and you can then only board the bus after the border again. But there aren't any local buses that will take you from the border to Almaty city centre. You could take a taxi, but they're very, very expensive. The bus journey, as in the 34, took just over an hour. Some points were very slow, but that was more because of traffic rather than the bus itself taking forever. And the other bus would have taken a similar route, so the main bus would also have been caught in that traffic. The bus takes around 30 minutes to get into Bishkek city, and then it will stop all along Chewy Prospect, including the Tsumungum malls, the Alatu Square, the Philharmonia and Osh Bazaar, and then it heads northeast into a small suburb. I got off at Tsumungum and then met my former student Lilia. So, in terms of costs, it was very affordable given that you're traveling between two major international cities. The bus ticket cost 3,000 Kazakh tenge, but there is an online service charge of 325 tenge, coming to a total of 3,325 Kazakh tenge, which works out at £5.31, €6.10, or $7.20 on the day of recording, which is late April 2026. The journey from Almaty bus station to Kordai at the border took 3 hours and 25 minutes, and I spent just over half an hour at the border. I then got the bus 34 from the border to the Tsumgum stop, which took 1 hour and 20 minutes because it was rush hour traffic. Without the traffic, that could have been 50 minutes, so it wouldn't have made much of a difference between that and getting back on the big bus to the bus station and then having to walk from there. As I said, that bus ticket was 30 Kyrgyz som, which can either be paid in cash or with QR codes connected to a Kyrgyz bank account. 30 som is roughly 20 British pence, or 30 euro cents, or $34 cents. Again, on the day of recording. So, the total journey time from door to door, 5 hours and 20 minutes. Total cost, £5.50, or €6.40, or $7.54. If you're in the region, I highly recommend this journey. It's more efficient than taking the train, very cheap compared to taking a taxi or a plane, and it gives you the chance to get talking to locals either on the bus or at the border. And honestly, this kind of journey is exactly why I created Step with Confidence. Because when people think about their year abroad, they often imagine the exciting parts, new cities, new friends, finally using Russian in real life. But a lot of the year abroad is also made up of situations like this. Being able to find the right bus station or find the right bus stand, understanding what's happening at the border, knowing when something is normal and when something feels a bit off, dealing with transport, money, phone signal, taxi drivers, scammers, all those little decisions that you have to make on the spot. And that's where classroom Russian and real life Russian can feel very different. So, If you're a Russian student preparing for your year abroad, especially if you're heading to Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan or somewhere else in the post-Soviet space, I run a program called Step with Confidence, which is designed to help you build the practical language, cultural awareness, and confidence you need before you arrive. It's not about becoming magically fluent overnight, and it's definitely not about pretending that everything abroad will be easy. It's about preparing properly so that when you arrive, you're not constantly stuck in your own head or relying on other English speakers for everything. We cover the kinds of situations that you're likely to actually face, things like transport and accommodation, getting through the border, money, social situations, cultural expectations. All of these things are covered in the course. But most importantly, it gets you participating in everyday society so that you can actually integrate on your life abroad. If that sounds useful, I'll leave the link below. You can read more about the program, and if it feels right, you can apply for it through a free call with me. There's no pressure to decide anything on the spot. It's just a conversation about your plans, your Russian, and whether the program will genuinely help you. So that is the end of this video. I hope you found it useful and informative. And if you have any questions about this video in particular, or any other things that you might be worried about before your year abroad, don't hesitate to put them in the comments. Not only will I answer you and you'll get an answer for them, but also it helps this channel out because more people in your position will be able to see my content too. So, until the next video, до следующего видео, до свидания и всем удачи!